Welcome to California, Mr. Bond.
Hello, everybody. We are back. Hi, Steve. How
Hiya,
are you?
hiya.
We are
Hey, Neil,
back.
how you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. It's been busy, but we're back. It's
It's
been.
been
I don't think
very
we've.
busy.
I don't think we've been on in about a month, so it's good to.
Yeah,
Part of that was because our screening series became monthly for a short amount of time from
yeah.
November through January, so that's been a lot of work on that.
It was
And
basically View to a Kill and Never Say Never were basically back to back
yeah, a little rough. Yeah,
with a Christmas party in between.
a Christmas party. So it's a little busy, a little mildly stressful. It's never not fun, but it's just mildly stressful at times. And
Yeah, with
but
the
it
holidays and family, and it was just one of those things where it's like we just literally couldn't. We tried. There were a
yeah,
few times where we thought we'd be able to sit down
yeah,
and
no.
talk, but
Also, I like we have lives as well.
yeah.
Unfortunately, no. I'm joking. It's just like, but yeah, View to a Kill, which was our second most attended show, which I was very shocked but pleasantly happy with.
Yeah.
It was nearly sold out, which was great.
Mhm.
And then we went, was it like 2.5 weeks after that? We went straight to Never,
The
right?
Never, yeah,
Yeah, which was
which had a great turnout.
it had a good turnout. That was a lot of fun. That actually, of the most recent ones, was one of my more favorite ones. More
Yeah,
like the party feel and just sort of there were a lot of cool props on display, and that was really good.
yeah.
You can go to the website. I haven't put the pictures up yet, but my our Facebook page has some of the pictures, but I have to
Mm.
put some of the
Our
newer
Instagram
stuff on the
page too
website. Yeah,
has a lot of photographs of
yeah,
Alan Stevenson was kind enough to bring a lot of memorabilia, the clapper,
yeah.
the clapper from the movie that still had the date and everything
Yeah, it's
written
pretty
on
cool.
it, and
Yeah,
the
it
one of
was good.
Largo's underwater jets, little underwater
Yeah,
wet jets with the little
and
flag logo on it.
Bob
So
Mitch.
a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, Bob Mitch brought his great posters again, so that was cool.
Oh yeah.
And so then we had Christmas, obviously, which just
Mhm.
ended, and then yeah, we have a little more leeway before the next screening next month of Her
Yeah, because
Majesty's
that's
Secret
not
Service,
until
January
well, because it
27th.
was funny because View worked out where it was the end of November, and Never Say Never worked out where it was within the first 2 weeks
Yeah.
of December. So on paper, we're like, it's no big deal, but then you actually get to do it, and you're like, holy crap, this is a lot.
Yeah, the
But it was,
pre-show
but like Neil said, it's never not fun. It was worth it.
yeah, the pre-show for Never sort of drained me, but it turned out great. So it was just like a lot of
Yeah,
I had to take like a breather and then jump right into that. So, but it's all
yeah.
good. They're all
I'm
really
and
successful.
that was lucky that we actually got a head start on that one
Yeah.
uh before we ended up like tearing way into it, which was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay, so we were gonna originally we were gonna do like a 2025 roundup show, but that would be a lot of talking about things that probably everyone else is gonna talk about. So I think
Yeah.
we'll just do the highlights. I guess Amazon,
Yeah.
MGM, we all know what happened with that.
Yeah, that's the big one.
A video game is has been delayed, right? It's been delayed by a couple
Yeah,
months.
they bumped it by I think
Yeah.
2 months,
Yeah, 2 months.
I think.
Um, what else? I mean, it's just a lot of like fandom trying to figure out what's going on with the franchise.
Yeah.
A screenwriter. Yeah, so they chose a screenwriter,
Yeah, I got the director, screenwriter,
but
no Bond yet.
that was in July, so that was the last info that we actually really heard. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
Uh,
and apart from that, we've just been kind of focusing on the screenings and then next year, 2026, which we're already, planning. I mean, our next movie is coming up,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
first movie of 2026 on Her Majesty's Secret
On Her
Service.
Majesty's Secret Service. That's right.
Raymond Benson is our special guest.
Yes, he will be there. He will sign whatever you want to bring him. So I've asked him that repeatedly, and he's fine with it. So I'm sure he's going to get a lot of merchandise to sign. So, so,
Oh, yes.
but yeah, it's just I guess 2025 for Bond fandom is still a giant question mark with a little more answers, but I feel the answers still lead to more questions. So we'll just have
Yeah.
to ride it
But a lot
out.
of movement.
Yeah,
The years previous, there was just a lot of
yeah,
anything happening? Well, stuff's happening at least.
yeah. And so,
and we got
yeah,
good people.
yeah, we do. We for 2026, we can't talk about a lot of stuff, but I will say there's a lot of good stuff that's in the pipeline from us and
Yeah.
from other people. So but we're gonna keep that a little on the down low right now, though. But I think people
Yes.
will be happy about it. So
There have been some public
yeah,
announcements
but
from collaborative parties, but
yeah,
we will not be saying anything
yes,
until,
yeah. So it's all good stuff.
yeah.
And I know we're uh, the year anniversary of us doing the screenings is in March, so we're
Hmm.
hoping to plan plan a little something for people. So,
There'll
but
be a soiree.
nothing carved in stone yet. But we have to talk about that actually. So we
Yeah.
have to plan that. Yeah. So all good things. It's good. It's better. It's better. There's something happening with fandom. I mean, it's always a good thing. So I mean, so I'm very happy
Yeah.
about it. So speaking of
And we
fandom,
have a really exciting slate of movies this year too.
yes, we do. We do. We have some good guests. We're actually pre-planning guests this year. I think our first year we were kind of doing it as we were going,
Kind of
and
going like, hey, who should we get next week?
and it's always worked. It's worked. It's
Yeah.
worked. But it got a little stressful. So now we're actually we're planning, 6 months in advance with people. So that actually helps
Yeah.
more. So yeah. So
Also helps ensure every single one of our guests has been really awesome. They've been perfect
yeah.
for every movie that we've shown. So we want to just take the extra care to ensure that, it is consistent.
Yeah. So yeah, keep going to the website to live and let die in LA.com. And yeah, and you'll get posted on all the stuff that's happening. So, but
Yeah.
we do have some special guests for this episode. So I'm glad we can
Yes.
close out 2025. Though I think this will probably go out after New Year's. I'm guessing, right? I don't
I'll
know.
probably have it up. We're doing this it's the
Monday.
29th of December
Yeah.
as we do this. So it'll probably be up today or tomorrow
All right.
before New
Cool.
Year's
All
Eve.
right. Cool. The esteemed authors of this wonderful book called Darker Than the Sun, but Mr. Ajay Chowdhury and Matthew Field. They are our very special guests that we've been playing podcast tag with them for a bit. So I'm glad it finally worked out. Very gracious, super awesome guys with their time.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable. My dog is barking, but
Mickey.
very knowledgeable gentleman about James Bond, obviously. So cool. Should we just play it?
Yeah. Why
Let's.
why make everyone wait?
I
Let's
know,
give them
right?
their Christmas
Okay.
gift.
Enjoy. And there goes my dog. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Cheers, guys.
We are recording. We just wanted to welcome our very special guest, Mr. AJ Chowdhury and Matthew Field,
Well,
authors of
guys.
several well-known Bond books, but more recently, if you can make it out there, Darker Than the Sun, which is a travelogue book. I mean, it's much more than that, but it gives all the locations and fun facts of all the Bond films. So yeah, so thank you guys, really appreciate it. So
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
being with
inviting
us.
us. We're really excited to be with you guys today.
good, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We try and have like a Los Angeles spin on Bond, and just sort of expand on that. And so yeah, so I think AJ, why don't we talk with you? You have some, well, okay, so you have some fun facts about I mean in Los Angeles, and why don't we just start there, and that'll be a good jumping in point.
Well, yeah, it's a travelogue, what we've in Darker Than the Sun, a sort of coffee table book illustrated with maps. And it was interesting to think of, Fleming is threaded throughout all the work Matthew and I do. And yeah, we Fleming loved America. And since this is a LA based podcast, we thought we might sort of sketch out some of those LA specific connections with Bond
Mm.
and Fleming and the team. I mean, Fleming would often travel to America, New York especially, Saratoga, Chicago, and he enjoyed the American lifestyle. He enjoyed American cars. He enjoyed American food. He had an American razor, and so Fleming was an Americanophile, and I think all that is sort of threaded through his Bond books, the Americana in those Bond books, and the detail. Of course, famously, Felix Leiter, Bond's best American pal, and I think that was kind of Fleming's international lust, and why we still read Fleming today is a great kind of thing there. Then, of course, Cubby Broccoli, and was sort of raised in LA and sort of raised in New York, but then went to LA trying to make a career. Sean Connery and Roger Moore both spent the 50s in LA in studio contracts, and there's a lot of LA based things. And of course, the studio United Artists was started in New York, but became MGM and was based in Santa Monica, and now Amazon MGM is based in Santa Monica. So LA is kind of the home of Bond in a fine kind of funny way.
Yeah.
And Matthew, you love LA, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time there professionally. So, Los Angeles is a great city. I mean, I've got, so I've got a very sweet connection with it. And throughout. I mean, not necessarily. Well, it is, of course, in Dark and the Sun, but certainly in Some Kind of Hero, Los Angeles is a key location in that book because we go backwards and forwards when we tell the complete Bond story. And as you just outlined there, AJ, some of the highlights of that. So, we love LA, and it's great to be here talking with the LA fans.
Matthew and I were at the Peterson Museum in September 2022, celebrating 30 years of the Ian Fleming Foundation. And that Peterson Museum and the Academy Museum
that's
are,
great.
are fantastic places. And Larry Edmonds Bookshop and the Dolby Theatre, where
awesome.
Oscars have taken place, and the Grammy Awards in the Staples Centre, all of which are threaded through with Bond lore and history. I mean, Matt, you were just recently in LA, weren't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm there all the time. But I think one of the greatest things, my greatest memories of Bond in LA, and AJ, this story involves you, was on that trip when we came over to see the Peterson, is we actually got to do the pilgrimage to Cubby Broccoli's grave. And that was, for us, quite a moving experience to be able to do that. I mean, you guys think about, when the Americans come over to London and they want to see all the Bond locations and they want to see, the Bond history. For us, that was a big thing. I mean, he was the godfather of the James Bond movie franchise. And, to go there and actually stand there is, it's quite a moving moment.
Yeah,
You don't realize how rich the history of LA is connected with Bond. And I mean, Neil and I, we've lived out here for a while, big Bond fans, and before we even started doing this, both of us were kind of like, well, somebody's got to be doing something already. This is Los Angeles. This is movie town. So when we did start this up, we were even thinking, well, I don't know, maybe LA isn't a Bond town. Maybe that's why. Maybe this is just one of those kind of weird pockets of the world where people like it, but that turned out to not be the case at all. LA loves James Bond.
A lot of
When we
fans.
started doing the screening series, that was the big eye opener to see just how many people were coming out, not just in LA proper, but people are starting to travel too from,
San Diego.
outside cities and states, and it's starting to expand a little bit out here on the West. People really love James Bond in the City of Angels. It's been a very encouraging thing.
Well, your screenings are amazing. I think you had Raymond Benson
He's going to come.
do yesterday, Majesty's Secret Service. Some of our heroes, Richard Shakeman, who founded the James Bond fan club with Bob Forlini in the Bondage magazine, amazing James Bond journalist. Steve J. Rubin, who wrote the James Bond films. These have all been your guests. You've got some great people like Matthew Bradford, who's a great literary guy, and
he's great.
Matthew Chernov, who took us to the aforesaid grave with Dana Broccoli there. And so great people in LA, and so many things. People come to London, as Matthew said, but you've got so much undiscovered stuff there, let alone, the homes of, Barbara Broccoli lives out there, and Michael Wilson has a place, and the Bonds sporadically, Timothy Dalton and George Lazenby, it's all happening in LA if you find it.
You have to look, but when you do find it, it's super fun. I've been to Broccoli's grave as well. I don't think many people know it's even there. I mean, but it's a really yeah,
It's
like
Forest Lawns, isn't it?
yes, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not far from Liberace, as I
Yeah.
remember well. But it's very moving in a way when you just think of all the
Yeah.
what he accomplished and how important his work in film was, and with James Bond. So it's really a. I mean, I actually whenever I'm down, I mean, I'm not. Whenever I go there, I always make a point of like stopping by his grave. So,
Hmm.
but yeah. Um, but Matthew, I wanted to ask you, can you talk? So Amazon is in charge of Bond now, and I mean, and that was a big uh bomb going off for fandom for a bit.
I mean, what a year when you think about it.
I'm optimistic. Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy year. We're gonna do our when we're done with you guys, we're gonna do a 1 year wrap up, and that'll probably be one of our main conversations there. But
I think
Oh
it's got
yeah.
to be the conversation,
yeah.
hasn't
Yes,
it?
yeah, it is. I'm optimistic. Steve is as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very optimistic about it. I'm just happy there'll be a brand new film at some point. So, but can you talk a bit about that, your opinions and the modern positioning of Bond?
I mean, obviously, it's a sad moment to see the broccolis disappear from from the future of James Bond. But let's look at all the positive things that are gonna come from it. I think that when you've got somebody or a company as rich as Amazon that become the custodians of Bond, they're not going to throw away the Bond iconography. I mean, they're going to celebrate it. You don't spend all that money to then get rid of it. So I think this will be a great Bond film. I think that they have to get everything right. You can't take a risk on it. It's too expensive to get wrong.
Mhm.
Just by what we've seen creatively so far with the director they've hired, from the writer they've hired, and David Heyman and Amy Pascal are two fantastic producers in their own right. Just look at their individual bodies of work, what they've done to date. So I've got a lot of faith in them. I've got a lot of faith in Amazon, and to be honest with you, I'm actually really excited to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Feels like kind of
We
a GoldenEye Casino Royale Spy Who Loved Me moment. It's almost a do or die kind of thing. I don't
exactly
envy
right.
the stress they have though.
Well, we're like you. Matthew and I are like you, Neil and Steve. We are martini half glass full people.
Yeah.
We're optimistic, and we think as well. We kind of know the industry a bit. We think we have a faith in. Well, as Matthew said, these are producer-led movies, and Heyman and Pascal have a powerful track record. But Denis Villeneuve, I love his films. He's a very interesting choice,
Mhm.
but he's captured the zeitgeist of the moment. He's probably one of the top directors in the world, which goes to show the kind of Rolls-Royceness of the James Bond franchise. It's still top
Hmm.
notch. Every time there's a new pretender thrown, Bourne, Mission Impossible, what have you, Bond is always slightly impacted by that. But guess what? Bond is the last spy standing. And, it's an enduring franchise, not only commercially, but creatively and culturally.
Yeah.
People remember Bond characters. We remember Bond songs, set pieces in a way that we don't quite remember Bourne or Mission Impossible. Not to say they're
Uh,
not very good. We love
Mhm.
them, but Bond
yeah.
still is around. And hopefully, from whenever the next picture comes out, we speculate what 2028. What do we think,
Yeah, I
guys?
think that's it. Yeah, probably.
2028, and
Probably,
then I
yeah.
think they're going to come out relatively regularly from that. As Matthew says, this franchise is too big and too important and too vital for cinema audience and audiences to forget. And there's room in the old dog yet.
Yeah.
Life in the old dog yet.
100%. No, it's just a very interesting time, a very exciting time. But yeah, just as I said a minute ago, sitting here, in December of 24, thinking about what's ahead, none of us could have imagined
I didn't.
what
Yeah.
was waiting in the world of Bond around the corner.
It's funny
Yeah.
when we wrote Darker Than the Sun. I always use the Beatles analogy. It's like the album Abbey Road, which was recorded. It was the last album, but the last album release was Let It Be. So we actually
Mhm.
wrote Darker Than the Sun before Spy Octane.
Oh,
And
okay.
for various
Oh,
reasons, it leapfrogged. And we thought, well, we don't have to do much work. And I think we were going to the end bit, the epilogue of the book. And it says, Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson will be back but for Bond 26,
Yeah.
business as usual. Of course, we thought, oh goodness me, we've got to change that.
But funny enough, AJ, that's not the first time that's happened to us. When we were doing the update of Some Kind of Hero, the publishers wanted it to be as up to date as it possibly could be at that point. So pre-production had started on what would eventually become No Time to Die, which was just then Bond 25. And we ended it. We thought, well, how far do we go? Well, we'll go up to Danny Boyle being announced as the director, and we were really pleased with it. It was a wonderful sign off. That's
safe, yeah.
You got this fantastic British director, that directed Happy and Glorious in the Olympics, won an Oscar for Slumdog Millionaire. What a great way to finish the chapter.
Yeah.
Not long after it had gone to print, Danny Boyle leaves 25. And never before had Bond history had a director got into pre-production and then left the film. So this is
not so publicly. Yeah.
This is the second time we had a Bond bombshell put on us just as we finished the book.
Oh boy.
That's the 2018 paperback update, which we wrote to Bond 25. So it's like hanging Chad.
What do you guys hope from the next Bond film in terms of tone, or like, do you want it more like the novels or more like lighthearted? What do you think?
Matthew and I have discussed this quite a lot. I think we kind of agree. We don't want to be in the prediction business.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, there's some certain sort of informed guesswork. We think it won't be a period piece.
Yeah.
Because Bond franchises, to be the Bond that the general public want, I think they want something contemporary. And I think Cubby Broccoli and the edict was always, let's make it contemporary, not least for the production value, the kind of sponsorship. One of the key things that's different from, Steve, you mentioned The Spy Loved Me Return, GoldenEye Return and Casino Royale Return, is that theatrical has changed. The whole exhibition model has changed, windows and streaming. And the revenues that could be got, both theatrical and ancillary, are completely different. The industry is facing a huge change. So the way you make theatrical films or franchise films will have to be different. Having said that, you need to re-engage with a new audience, recalibrate the audience. I think, as usual, they're going to recapture a younger market. It's going to be fun, entertaining, thrilling, the Bond we know and love. I think a great template for this is the amazing work done on the First Light video game, which is due next year. I think that enjoys all the entertainment and fun of Bond that we've come to know and love, and that's a recalibration. We think the Daniel Craig era is amazing, and it was critically and commercially amongst the most lauded. But I think there's always, as all Bond fans know, there's a reset, a tonal and cultural reset. And I think the new Bond and new Bond film may reflect that, but we could be completely wrong. Of course, we'd love there to be faithful period adaptations of the novels. Matthew and I are big fans of The Young Bond by Charlie Higson. We like all the iterations of the literary Bond, and that could be all up for grabs. But I think they got to re-establish a new Bond and a new Bond brand first before they go off in those directions.
I think, again, we can all sit here and have fun predicting as to what the next generation of James Bond is going to be. But I think when you look back at, say, GoldenEye in 1995, I don't know if that's necessarily the film that Bond fans could have imagined they were going to get. And certainly, by 2006, both AJ and I were serious Bond commentators by then. But I don't think either of us could ever have imagined what that film was going to turn out and look like. And again, that comes down to Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, who I think terrifically reinvented it twice with GoldenEye and Casino Royale in completely different ways. So I think what we see from this next Bond film at the moment, what it will end up being is what none of us can imagine it can be. But what will be there is, I guarantee, and I say this, it will be a James Bond movie. It will have everything that we want from it. It will have a gun barrel. It will have a title song. It will have a title. It will have groundbreaking action. It will have exciting locations. It will have all of that, but it will just be the tone of it, and maybe what they serve up is not what we could imagine right now.
From Matthew's lips to David Heyman and Amy Pascal.
Let's phone them up now. There we go.
Well, I think
it's funny because we a couple months ago we did Die Another Day, and at first it felt like we were having a hard time getting people into the theater, but then it ended up being another packed house, and we had both Matt Gorley and Matt Myra from James Bonding as our guests, and it was so much fun, and a lot of people were commenting about how, hey, this isn't the best James Bond movie, but I had so much fun in the theater tonight
Yeah.
with all of these Bond fans just laughing and yelling and hooping it up. And I watched Calvin Dyson's review of the movie a few days ago, and he said something that was kind of perfect. He went, kudos to Lee Tamahori who gave 2002 the James Bond movie that 2002 wanted.
Exactly. Well, Matthew and I are huge Bob Die Another Day fans, actually. We really like it. In fact, just to go back to our book, the title Darker Than the Sun is quite an intriguing title. We always have problems coming up with titles that we both agree with. And then finally something comes out of the blue and we both go exactly right. Darker Than the Sun is a book about Bond movie locations, and when we were asked to write it, the publishers came to us, and as I said, we were deeply ensconced in Spy Octane, the Vehicles of James Bond, Volume 1, a huge, massive coffee table book, and we basically said we can't do it. We normally do tons of primary research. We said we couldn't do it, and then we thought about it and thought, well, a book on Bond movie locations, that's the Bahamas, Jamaica, Japan, Las Vegas, great. So far, so early Bond film. Then when you get to later on, say the Daniel Craig era, or even some of the Pierce Brosnan era, Die Another Day being a case example, he goes to Korea, South Korea, Havana, London, Hong Kong, except he doesn't. When they film it, it's, I think, an RAF base in North London, 3 rainy days in Cadiz, a bit of second unit in Iceland. And when you write about it, what do you write about, the fiction or the fact? So we decide to fictioneer the real locations after they're real. And also the tenor changed. Back in the day, the Bond locations were glamorous, sun-drenched, what we all aspired to go to, where very few people, budget jets, budget airlines weren't there. Now everyone can go everywhere. And they decided the writing ethic became what was exotic now in 2025, 26 is what is foreboding. What can people not go to? What is slightly forbidden fruit? What is darker? What is more espionage? So we were running over the title. And Matthew, can you tell people where the title came from, where we stole it from?
Well, this has been one of the biggest questions we've had, guys, since this book's come out. What does the title actually mean?
Yeah.
Well, firstly, we wanted something that was Fleming-esque. We wanted something that, sounded like a Bond title, which I think Darker Than the Sun definitely is.
Yes.
But Darker Than the Sun was actually David Arnold's suggestion for Die Another Day. When we remained Bond 20 for quite some time into the production, and they were, I think everybody was throwing their titles into the ring, and David Arnold said in an interview that we did with him, well, my suggestion for Die Another Day was Darker Than the Sun. So just like Ian Fleming did, we simply stole it and used it.
and it captures that contrast between what was glamorous and fun in the beginning to what's slightly foreboding and darker. So it worked really well. And we still need to send him a copy of the book, don't we, Matthew?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And of course, our other book, Some Kind of Hero, that title came from Die Another Day as well. So we owe a lot to the movie, hell of a lot to that movie.
I was going to tell you guys that when at the beginning of the film, when they're doing the prison swap and Brosnan comes out of the mists and he's got the hair and the beard, and it cuts to Michael Madsen's Falco going, look at him, he thinks he's some kind of hero. The crowd went nuts.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
At our screening, the entire crowd cheered, and it's just a great delivery. It's a great turn of phrase, and of course, you guys use it as a great title for your book.
Good.
Well, God rest Michael Madsen.
That was one of the big moments from the screening.
And of course, Michael Madsen we lost this year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did inquire to his people about speaking for that, but then he passed very quickly after that, so we never got far with that. So, but that would have been awesome though. So,
I heard he was a big Bond fan. I mean, that's how he got cast in the film, if I'm not mistaken. He was living next door to Pierce Brosnan in Hawaii. They were neighbors, they were friendly, and he just happened to mention to Brosnan one day, I'm a really big James Bond fan. I think I'm excited that you guys are doing another movie. And Brosnan was like, you want to be in it? So it's just that simple.
I think Matthew wrote a great obituary for him on the MI6 website. based on material we'd gleaned from him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky to actually speak with him
Cool.
during lockdown. Because one of the things, I mean, AJ and I are always thirsty to move the Bond story forward and to move Bond research forward. And after Some Kind of Hero, after the amount of people we'd spoken to, we thought we're not done with this. We've got so much more to do. And as a lockdown project, we drew up a list of every cast and crew from Doctor No onwards that we hadn't spoken to. And I think
Wow.
250 interviews we got up to, AJ,
Wow.
by the time COVID was over. I mean, we spoke to a lot of people, and it was an amazing time for us because a lot of people that would usually decline to be interviewed because they're busy, and they've got other things going on. I think every single person we asked said yes. I mean, they were okay. We were talking on off the back of the work that we've done, and they could see the seriousness of it. But Michael Madsen was one of those guys that said yes, and so we had a great chat with him.
He relished it, didn't he?
Another day, yeah, he was fantastic, and we
I think he wanted to be in another one, didn't he?
Yeah, he was saying,
Well,
sorry,
of course, Michael Madsen was going to return in the screenplay that Neil Purvis and Robert Wade wrote, Jinx, the spin-off, and he was the head of the NSA, and they were going to, I think, was Halle Berry and Javier Bardem, I think they wanted. Anyway, so, and almost certainly Michael Madsen would have been cast in that had they made it. So yeah, he may have returned to the Bond world.
Wow.
As Falco.
Yeah. Can you guys talk about how you write a book like Darker Than the Sun? Do you guys take individual chapters, or how do you write it, basically?
How do we write it? Well, firstly, we accepted the gig, what we wanted to do. So just an outline. This is not a doorways and alley. What's your phrase, Matthew?
Doorways and manhole covers. This isn't.
This is not a book for people who are going to follow in the footsteps and look at our book and find the exact places. This is not that. On the tracks of 007 and all the great Bond location hunters do that much better. What we decided to do was imagine why they went to those locations, what it meant in the fictional universe of when the Bond film journeys to, say, Cuba. Of course, they've never actually been to Cuba. What Cuba meant in that film, or the locations. One of the early stories I love is Draco in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We first meet him in Portugal, and he's got an estate which intimates that Draco breeds livestock. And Peter Hunt wanted that because he said Blofeld's plan is to eradicate the world's food supply. And it gives Draco an implicit stake that he would be directly affected by that plan. So that kind of whying of a location is incredibly interesting. And then we spoke to, and we were lucky enough to speak to many of the primary filmmakers on the most recent era, from Brosnan through to the Craig era. Matthew, do you want to say what we gleaned from them and how we did that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, when between us, we have huge libraries of Bond material. I mean, we've got, every book that's ever been written in the English language and beyond. Huge archives of magazine and newspaper interviews and broadcast. Yeah, TV, radio, of everything that, large quantities of stuff that interviews with the filmmakers going back that we've amassed. And that's kind of, where we start. So when we do a project like Dark and the Sun, we go back to those archives and we go through, well, what did Sean Connery say about Las Vegas when Diamonds Are Forever came back? Let's go back to the files. Let's have a look. And, there might be, 4 or 5 interviews that he did on location. And he's talking about, what impressed him, what he saw there, what he loved most about it, and all that stuff. And what, and then there might be interviews with Guy Hamilton talking about how he wanted to present that city in the movie. So we bring all that stuff in, and then we have a look at what we've got. And then we've obviously got our own interviews that we do ourselves. And because of the previous books, we did have at our disposal many of the filmmakers. I mean, all of the living directors we spoke to for Dark and the Sun. But it's interesting when you go back and you look at all the stuff that, say, Lee Tamahori said about Die Another Day in the locations. He doesn't talk much about Iceland in terms of And I don't mean about going there, because obviously, as AJ said, only the second unit really went there. And obviously, he went there to shoot some of it, but it was mainly a second unit location. I mean, they didn't take any of the principals up there. But what is it about that location that inspired him? How did he want to bring that country to life in his film in a different way we've never seen before? What did why, for example, did Roger Spottiswoode choose Hamburg for Tomorrow Never Dies? I mean, we'd heard stories that they originally were looking at Seville in Spain. I mean, it would have been obvious to use somewhere like Paris, but Hamburg is not the sort of place that generally comes up a lot in movies. And he said, well, quite simply, we needed a European setting for Carver, and he'd shot commercials there back in the 70s, and he said, I knew that city. I knew the architecture, I knew the locations, I knew what could work. And well, we'd never taken Bond really to a city like that before. So that's how we incorporated it. Again, it's like talking to Martin Campbell about Venice in Casino Royale, because as everyone listening will know, this was the third time that Bond had visited Venice. So how do you make it look different? And it was really interesting what he said. He said, if you look at From Russia with Love, it's postcard Venice, it's Bridge of Sighs, it's all the obvious places that you would expect. But what we wanted to do in this, modern spy thriller in 2006 was to go into the darker shadows of Venice, the places that you don't normally see. And you think about where some of that action takes place when Bond follows Vesper into the shadows, into the alleyways. Some of the places that that hasn't really been brought to life in anything. Certainly anything in recent years. So I think it was asking these directors questions which you think all that stuff would already be out there, but it absolutely wasn't. And I think, we'd spoken to Michael Apted at length for Some Kind of Hero, and unfortunately he wasn't with us when we came to do this book, but we had extensive, several hours of interviews that we'd done with him. And he was really interesting because with him being a documentary filmmaker, he actually talked a lot into the locations in our interviews because, he understood that. He said that, he went and looked at those locations when they were scouting The World Is Not Enough with his documentary antennae certainly up there and looking at them and how he could bring that flavor into the film. And I think if you look at the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, you'll see some of those scenes really capture those. There's a scene where I think where Bond's driving across the oil fields in like a vehicle, and you really see and capture the flavor about what that place is. And I think for I'm sure very good reason those scenes were cut, but you can see as a director how he was really influenced by place. And I think that's something which I think Darker Than the Sun is very much about. It's about capturing flavor, what inspired these filmmakers, what inspired these writers, what inspired the producers to take Bond to that place. And Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, who have been great supporters of all of our projects, they told us this wonderful story. They said, every time they sit down with Barbara and Michael to start a new Bond film, they'd sit there in Eon's HQ at 138 Piccadilly in the boardroom there, and there's this huge, great big mahogany table which sits in there in the drawing room. And they'd sit there and think, well, where do we go? And Michael would get up from his chair and he'd drag this antique globe from the corner of the room and he'd look at it, him and Barbara and the two writers, and he'd give it a spin and say, where should we take Bond next? And I thought that was a
That's
great
funny.
way
That's
to
great.
sit there, like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to take Bond next?
We also
that's
tracked
great.
down John Logan, who polished the last few Bond films, and he talked about a Bond location is like a musical number in a musical, especially in the pre-title sequence. It gives you the flavour of where it's like the opening ta-da thing of a Bond film. And I think he spoke very well about what locations mean to Bond films. Just a point going back to Azerbaijan and some of the geometry of the book, we have lots of detailed maps which the publishers had special cartographers draw up. And we've got maps of, say, Azerbaijan. Now, if you remember, they don't actually shoot much in Azerbaijan. There's no first unit there. But what we do is, and we've got an extensive bibliography where we drew from anything official like screenplays, the novels themselves, novelizations, related official Danjak material like making of and production notes. And we extrapolated, so they don't go to Azerbaijan, but Peter Lamont or Michael Apted go and visit these places and were inspired by the Devil's Breath or a pipeline that there's going to be built. So all these locations, all these points on the map are drawn from the real life inspirations for those map points, or speculation when we've got a map of North and South Korea. What Purvis and Wade said could have been, and looking at the map points where in reality there were actual exchanges or bridges. So that's how those maps have been populated. When you're scratching your head and go, but they didn't go there. We're inviting you to invite you into the creative fiction world of the Bond film. So we've got a map of Crab Key, for example, in our Jamaica. Well, that's drawn from Fleming saying Crab Key is 50 miles north of Oricabessa. So we put that on there. There is, of course, no Crab Key, but that's how we had a bit of fun as well, and a bit of speculative stuff that the publishers wanted us to do.
Oh, that's part of the fun of Bond too. That
Exactly.
fantasy element. Just I was poring over the book over the weekend, and that was one of my favorite aspects of it is I know there's no Crab Key. My brother was just in GoldenEye, Jamaica on vacation, and I said, "You go to Crab Key?" And he's like, "There's no Crab Key." But but I'm looking at the map, man.
Yeah. Well, we've also got there's some great stuff in the book where Sid Kane talks about the inspiration for the fictional Sam Monique in Live and Let Die, or Michael Wilson and Richard Maybaum talk about what inspired Isthmus City, the real life geopolitical points. So we've got a lot of actual filmmaking skill. We talk about tax shelters or why people go to a place in particular. It might be artistically prosaic, but sometimes it's releasing United Artists funds or a tax incentive from Mexico City. And that's why a lot of stuff gets made. Now, in the film, I don't think it actually matters. I think it's spectacular what they do. But all that stuff, this is what differentiates Darker Than the Sun from other books, I think. The primary research, the interviews, as Matthew said, and also some of the more filmmaking aspects of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned like how do you when you two approach a book, what do you try and do you set out to make a book like that hasn't been done before, or like what are the check marks that you try and do with each book you do?
Well, I think, as I said, AJ and I have not only have we got every book that's ever been written on the James Bond phenomenon, we've actually read them and digested them. I don't know whether that's something to be proud of or not, but we do
Yeah.
we do have this lucky thing that when we're writing, we'd be on the phone at it'd be like 1 in the morning, and we're on the Man with the Golden Gun chapter, and I'd say to AJ, "Oh, do you remember Christopher Lee said something about so and so?" And he'll say, "Oh, was that interview in
That's
that
great.
book?" And then I can just go and pull it. But we're lucky that we've both got those brains that work in that way.
It's
So I
unique.
think what we start off with is we want to write a book that pushes the Bond story forward. Okay, we want something that's not been done before. That's our starting point. So I think we took this project on. It was the first book that AJ and I wrote that we hadn't pitched, because usually it's no different to being a filmmaker. You roll into a publisher and you've got this great idea for a book, and you write a proposal, you write an outline, and then it goes to one decision process, and then it goes to the next level and the next level, and finally you might get a phone call to say, "Yeah, guys, we're good, we want to publish this book, go ahead and write it." But with this one, the publishers sort of came to us and they said, "Look, we're going to do a James Bond themed atlas, and we're looking for an author to do it." And so we sort of thought about it, and we were thinking, well, we never imagined that we'd ever write a James Bond travel book. It wasn't something that I mean, I wouldn't say it didn't interest us. It just hadn't entered our minds to do something like this. But then came the challenge that if we did it, how could we do it in an AJ and Matt way, which is to kind of push it forward, something which hasn't been done before? Because as we said, we didn't want to do doorways and manhole covers because there's other Bond fans and other organizations that have done it brilliantly, and I mean brilliantly. I mean, they've done the screen grabs, the comparisons, they found everything. He walks down the street here and then he comes out around the corner 2 miles away. We weren't going to write that book. That wasn't what we were going to do. So how could we do something different? So again, it was coming up with something unique. So I think approaching it, the long answer to your question is we've got to do something that's unique, something that hasn't been done before. And I think with Bond travel and Bond locations, Dark and the Sun is certainly something which has not been done within that area, that subject within Bond. And then
I
it's a
must
case of,
also,
sorry,
I'm,
AJ.
sorry, I must also flag something up which Matthew can't talk on. We're privileged to be with an award-winning author. Matthew Field wrote in 2019. As you know, he writes other things. He
Yes.
wrote the definitive book on the Italian Job,
Yep.
1969 Michael Caine movie called The Cell Preservation Society's 50 Years of the Italian Job, which famously has that wonderful mini chase. And Matthew then, in 2019, won the Royal Automobile Club Award for Best Motoring Book of the Year. And so I hang on his coattails. In fact, that book led directly to the book we wrote previously to Darker Than the Sun, or was published previously, Spy Octane, Volume 1, The Vehicles of James Bond, which charts the definitive vehicular history of James Bond, starting with Fleming, and this one ends at Diamonds Are Forever, the golden age of Bond, and that was a massive research tome. Matthew, do you want to talk a little bit about that, which is published by the Porter Press International, and is a huge labour of love? So,
Yeah, I mean, this book is something which I personally wanted to do for many years. I thought it was an area of Bond that hadn't really been researched and explored in any great depth in one place. I mean, there had been the most famous car in the world, written by Dave Worrell in the early 1990s, which covered the Aston Martin DB5. But there'd been other books about the Bond cars, but nothing in any great detail. And I think what we wanted to do there was to write a book which not only explored the Bond cars in terms of everything we knew, it's kind of like, well, how did those cars or those vehicles end up in the Bond film in the first place? How did they end up with the scripts? Where was the inspiration? How did they find out about them? How did the inventors and the filmmakers meet? And how did Aston Martin and how did Cubby Brock and Harry Saltzman meet? How was that product placement deal done? Then it's the stories about the making of the film, and then it's the stories about the marketing of the film, like how those vehicles were used to promote the films all over the world. I mean, they toured the world, some of these things. I mean, Little Nelly toured the world. So did the Aston Martin DB5 in the 60s. The moon buggy got rolled out and taken across Europe and went to some fascinating and interesting places. For Diamonds Are Forever. And then it's like what happened to them afterwards. And that was the fascinating research that we had to do, is that in those days, they didn't keep anything. At the end of production, at the end of marketing, these vehicles were sold off. And they were sold to individuals just as a regular car. I mean, Tracy's Cougar from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. They were just sold off at the end of it. The Aston Martin DBS from Majesty's that ended up at the British School of Motoring as for a car people to learn to drive in.
Wow.
He ended up in a farmer's field in Kent. They all had these amazing stories, and we went back and found all these owners that had bought these vehicles. Some of them not even knowing they owned a Bond vehicle.
Wow.
And they went up into their attics and into their basements and into their cellars and were finding all these fascinating photographs and documents and all this incredible stuff relating to these vehicles. And we thought, well, let's do a book that covers this story like no one's ever done before. And when we actually got into it, this is where we were really grateful to be working with the Porter Press, is that we said to them very early on, we're going to need more than one book to cover this, because I don't know if we're going to get it all in. And they said, well, if you really can fill 2 books, then let's do it in 2 books. Well, as we've really got into Volume 1, which covers Dr. No to Diamonds Are Forever, we said we're going to need 3 books. The story's so big. So by the time we're finished, we would have completed 3 450-page coffee table books on the vehicles. Wow. It's kind of like our Avatar. That's what I call it. It's so big, we need someone to tell it.
And Matthew's our James Cameron. The thing is about both Dark and the Sun and Spy Octane, Matthew and I general, although we're sort of Bond adjacent, we're not official and we're not sanctioned, and that gives our work a certain quality that I think also makes it shine. Although we're not anti-Bond, we're fully supportive of it, but we're journalistic first, and that goes to both Spy Octane and Darker Than Sun. They're richly illustrated by pictures that rarely have been seen, if ever, before. There's nearly 1,000 pictures in Spy Octane. I'd say 95% of those have never been published.
Wow.
In Darker Than the Sun, you'll know it's eclectically and eccentrically illustrated by a lot of those people who we've talked about on the tracks: Thomas Gleitzman, David Zawitsky, Rembert van Braam, Eric Hollander, also people like Elliot Meddings, Derek Meddings' son, provided us pictures.
Wow.
Willie Bogner
Mhm.
Jr., John Glenn have provided us unique pictures. Again, rarely, if ever, published. So this gives these books, as Matthew was saying before, an ungoogleable, unrepeated, brand new quality that's out there. So we're adding to the Bond lore, cognizant of what's gone before. We always look in the gaps as to say, well, what hasn't been asked, what hasn't been done, and that's what I think both these books bring to the party, as well as information-wise, pictorially. They really add something that hasn't been out there before.
It's fantastic. What I was as I was reading through, pouring over the book over the weekend, I was putting on the movies, and just as I did You Only Live Twice, Majesties, I did Moonraker, and I just stayed on the chapter and the maps, and I felt like the Indiana Jones movies where the
Yeah,
plane and
yeah,
the
yeah.
map line is going, and I just kind of followed along and did that. And I haven't done anything like that with a Bond book or a movie book with what it's related to since I was a teenager. And it was
Just
it
to,
was a
thank you,
great way to
Steve. That
spend
means
a
that
couple of
that
weekends, a couple of days over the weekend. It was really wonderful. It was magical.
that means a lot to us. Another word we got, as Matthew said, we got a shout out to the designers of both books, Martin Port of
Mm.
Porter Press International, and Ruben Wakeman, who's a great in the UK, is the doyen of Bond designers. He's been so helpful with lots of people. These books are richly illustrated, and they need to be navigated visually, and I think that's
Mhm.
what they both do. Thanks to Martin Port and Ruben Wakeman. So a big shout out to them. We're lucky to have both.
Yeah.
When we were
Bravo,
doing
guys.
when Ruben, who designed Dark and the Sun, what was great about him was that we were allowed to bring a designer with us on that project, and that rarely happens when a publisher sort of like asks you if which designer you'd like to work with. Usually you work with who they've got either on their payroll or who they work with regularly and who they're comfortable working with. And the great thing about Ruben was because that we had access to various film art, photograph libraries and archives. And Ruben was great because when he was laying it out, he could go in and go, "Oh, that's a picture from You Only Live Twice that we haven't seen before, so we'll take that one." It might not have been the immediate obvious choice, but it had to do a couple of things. Firstly, it had to illustrate the location, because let's face it, we're writing a book about movie locations, Bond movie locations. But B, if there was 3 or 4 pictures on offer, he would take the one that he'd think, "Oh, I'm a massive Bond fan. I haven't seen that one before. That's the one the
Yeah,
fans are going to
exactly.
the one he puts in there." So we were extremely
That's good.
lucky to have him, and he did some fantastic work on it. So if you're listening, Ruben, thanks again so much for what you did. It was brilliant.
And Martin Port, who did Spy Octane, that there's a if you see it's a huge 3.5 kg coffee table book,
Yeah.
and the design really helps tell the separate stories, as Matthew talked about how the cars were used in the film, the production of it, and then what happened later on, which is unique. Spy Octane really covers, especially with the Aston Martin, the real end point of all these vehicles to date, so far
Mhm.
as we know. As you all know, infamously, one of the Aston Martins disappeared under different circumstances, and dear old Matthew, who's like a truffle hunting pig when it comes to well, truffle hunting hound, I should say, when it comes to finding out new stories and getting interview subjects. He never takes no for an answer. But on that particular thing, we were told, well, it might be dangerous ground. That car might be with South American drug dealers, or might be with people with alligators or in the Middle East. And Matthew said, I don't care. He was warned off, in fact, by a few people, don't go there. But Matthew, rather like Bob, never takes no for an answer. And it was quite dangerous. I upped my life insurance on him as he was getting more suspicious. But the Spy Octane really showcases the result of impeccable and authenticated and double checked research, because we're We're sticklers. We footnote everything. We want it to be accurate, and that's what both these books try to do, actually.
Especially in this day and age, I'm always triple checking.
Yeah. And
You know,
but with Bond, sorry, Matthew.
Going back to your question, which I feel I should add to this, is about what how do we tackle it? What do we want it to be? I think in this day and age, a good book has to be something that's not Googleable. So okay, yes, I could type into Google now James Bond movie locations, and I'm going to get a whole load of information that's going to come up, which is going to tell me about where they are, how I could get to them. All of them will have a Bond section on their website. If I go to the Shield Torn Piz Gloria website, I'm going to find out about all. I'm going to get to know a bit about what happened there in 1968, 69. The same if I type in Phuket, I'm going to James Bond Island. We're going to see it was where the man with the golden gun was shot. I'm going to see some nice pictures, a bit of information. Great, that's all fantastic. I mean, we're so lucky to have the internet as a resource. But what we're trying to do with all of our books is push it forward so that you've got something which is what books used to be before the internet. Books were a source of information you couldn't get anywhere else. Now that challenge is even harder. So that makes us work harder as writers to make our work even better. Is that, I can find a million Lee Tamahori interviews. If I go onto YouTube, I can probably find, 50 interviews he did in 2002 on, all the different TV programs and press kits and as he did the press tour around the world. But we've got to get back to Lee Tamahori, and we've got to get to find new information and push it forward and find out, stuff that he has never said before. So I think that's one of the things that we want to do is that's a massive measure for us is it Googleable? If it's not, then we're winning.
And also exactly what Matthew said. And one of the reasons why Matthew and I work quite well together is because we both have this simpatico view of James Bond journalism. It's not about us. We rarely put ourselves in the narrative. We're not important. That's why we don't put our opinions or reviews in, because no one really cares what we think. And quite frankly, neither do we. We want to see facts and also verify them. Now, in the days of the internet, there's so many things that crop up that are taken as fact, and Spy Octane busts a few myths that have been accepted as fact. And then when sort of triangulate the sources or find the actual material underneath it, then you go, oh, so in a way, what Matthew and I try and do is interpret and change the Bond mythos a little bit. And by going to things that aren't Googleable, all of a sudden the accepted fact becomes something slightly different. And I think that's what we strive to do when we can. And I think that journalistic quality is there. I mean, we talk about, Matthew and I visited the set of Casino Royale, and it was the 007 stage where they had the sinking Venetian palazzo on a hydraulic winch, but they also built an external set where we had lunch that could have been one of those hidden cloistered squares in Venice, and we had lunch there. We pinched ourselves thinking, God, this is surreal. So an unsung hero of the locations is Pinewood Studios, where Matthew and I have been lucky enough to go to a few times. And one of the things both Matthew and I bring, that journalist thing, is also a sense of filmmaking truth. We both work in the film industry to some extent, and we both understand the myth and the smoke and mirrors of filmmaking. And that's another quality both Spy Octane and Darker Than the Sun give to what, apart from the locations, what are the practical considerations behind contemporary filmmaking?
Mm-hmm. We have a friend out here who comes to a lot of our screenings and events. He's an artist. He's worked on movies like Beetlejuice and designed the Flash's outfit and the Robert Short.
Yeah, it's just Robert Short. So he's great. We love Bob.
We love Bob, and I remember I had heard about him before I had met him, and I had heard all the stories about how when he was a kid he had got onto the set of Diamonds Are Forever, and they let him basically have the run of the movie while they were shooting it out west out here until they caught him on the oil rig and said, "What the hell is this kid doing here? Get him out of here! This is dangerous." But then, and I remember sitting next to him at one of our happy hours,
His
and he
pictures are
started
great.
talking, and I got so excited. I said, "Oh my God, you're the kid!"
His pictures are
Matthew, do
great
you
from
want to
the.
talk about Mr. Short?
Yeah, please
Yeah,
do.
he's actually was a great resource when we were doing Spy Octane. For what you were just saying, Steve, about his adventures on Diamonds Are Forever, because he took some amazing
Yeah.
photographs on the set,
Yeah,
and a small selection of them were first reproduced in Bondage magazine. I think 1980, somewhere around then. Anyway, he allowed us to reproduce these pictures for the first time in color. These are pictures of the Mustangs parked up together on
Mhm.
set. Pictures of the hearse that were, that was the slumbering hearse. The helicopter that was going backwards. One of the helicopters was going out to the oil rig. I mean, lots of really fascinating photographs. And again, his stories. I mean, he's a great resource. And did you know he actually owned the Bathos sub at one point from
I did
Diamonds Are
not. That
oh,
I
I
didn't
didn't know
know.
he owned the Bathos
Yeah.
sub. Wow.
So he was able to, tell us that story, which is in the book as well. So that's a fascinating story. So yeah, he's a great guy. I've
Super
never
nice.
met him in person. We've spoken to him a lot like this, but never actually met him in person. So yeah, I'm really pleased because he still loves Bond now. And
Oh yeah.
Oh
as we've
yeah,
spoken to him,
yeah.
really
He's a
He
big
comes out to
supporter of
everyone
ours.
we
He's
do.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's
I
going to be
mean,
there next month, actually. So
what you guys do is really keep the LA end up. I mean, Matthew mentioned Bondage magazine, Richard Sheckman's wonderful work that still echoes today. And the gathering you get there
yeah.
with those people it's great. LA is I'm sure there are a lot more Bond fans out there waiting to come along. So
Yeah. We
Yeah.
just try and spread the word as much as
Yeah,
possible.
that's it. Just hey, we're doing movies, we're hanging out. Just come hang out. That's as simple as that.
I mean,
I
sorry.
I have many friends of mine that go to your things, and I think Matthew will try and go, and I'll try and go at one point.
Yeah,
But
please do.
there's a big overlap, so you create a lot of excitement
Good.
in
Good.
LA.
Glad. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have. It began with 8 people at a restaurant, and now it's over at the film nights, like over 200 now. So
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
just grown and grown and grown and
Pack
grown.
houses
So
every night. Even
yeah,
Never Say Never Again,
yeah,
which going into it, we would usually do a screening every other month, and then the way it worked out at the end of the year was we did View to a Kill
yeah.
November, and then within like 2 weeks later we did Never Say Never Again, and even Tom, our guy at the theater who hooked all this up with us, he was telling us, well, there's only like 37 tickets sold, guys. We may have to move it into a smaller theater. I don't know. And
But
I
then
was telling Neil, oh, but we were in the big theater all year.
no, but it did really
But
well though.
then the
Ultimately,
night
yeah,
of the screening showed up and it was
shot up. Yeah,
another packed
yeah, it was good.
house.
Yeah,
People
Well,
came
our
out.
friend
They
Bruce
they love
Skively
it.
introduced it as well.
yeah,
Bruce is a
he did.
great
He was
guy,
great. Yeah,
and you guys get some really good speakers like Raymond Benson and all
yeah.
the guys. So that's you add value. So it's
Great. Thank
great
you.
what you guys do.
Thanks a lot.
At
Yeah,
our Christmas party, Luciana Paluzzi
yeah.
loves
She
what we
came.
do
Yeah,
and had such a great time at our screening that when we said, well, we're doing a little Christmas get together, why don't you come out? And she came out with Michael and Phil Dewhurst
Phil
came
Dewhurst.
out
Yeah, it
and
was
said
cool.
hi. And so folks that were at the party all of a sudden look up and oh my God,
It
there's
was,
Fiona Volpe.
yeah. So
So
yeah,
it was beautiful that she did that. It was really wonderful.
yeah.
She's
She's
been a
wonderful.
great supporter of ours.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. This has just been really great. We're
Yes.
just we'll all put the links for where they can purchase this. But if you want to mention, where is the best spot for people to purchase these?
Well, Spy Octane is probably purchased through Porter Press
Or okay,
International,
yeah,
their website,
okay,
and Amazon
okay,
USA do Darker Than the Sun,
okay,
and
great.
Some Kind of Hero is still available as well.
Yep.
Is the fundamental text. If you like it, give us 5-star reviews and just spread
Oh,
the word.
okay.
And we love what you're doing, and the
Thank
Bond
you.
community supports each other. And
Yeah.
you guys are kind of in some ways the home of James Bond at the moment with
Oh well,
Amazon. So
thank you.
Oh.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah. They're right next door, actually. So I
yeah,
mean,
put
yeah.
in a good word with Denis and
yeah.
Stephen Knight and
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll try. No, but thank you. Your books are phenomenal, and when the new one came out, were wanting to speak with you guys. So thank you. We really
Yeah.
appreciate that. So
Well,
And like I said earlier, I haven't felt this happy
yeah,
with a Bond book since I was a teenager.
yeah.
And this is one that I'm just going to keep revisiting while I replay the movies. And I can't wait to meet you guys in person so that you can sign it for
Yeah,
us.
there you
So
go.
Can happen.
it's a wonderful
just,
gift. Thank you.
well, just one more story. I
Yeah,
think that
please do.
we've all got our favorite Bond book. And I think we all think back from the first Bond book we got. It's a bit like the first Bond film we saw, maybe.
Mhm.
But it just hearing you say that, Steve, reminded me when I was 6, the first James Bond book I got was called the official James Bond 007 movie book that came out with the Living Daylights, which was to
Okay,
celebrate the 25th anniversary of the James Bond films. And that book, I mean, I've repurchased it again since, but my original copy is really, really tatty. The amount of times looked at, traced pictures out of it, and the rest of it.
Mhm.
But I think we've all got
Sally
a Bond.
Hibbin,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Like Sally Hibbin, yeah, yeah, and I always remember in the last line of the book is she, because it's to celebrate, as I said, the 25th anniversary, and she says, I wonder if one day anybody will write the official James Bond 007 movie book, the second 25 years, and as a 6-year-old, I was trying to work it out. My God, going to be like 2020, that's going to be 2012. That's a long time away. So it just showed you even then that people were thinking about the longevity of Bond and how long it was going to go on for, even in those that was the first official James Bond coffee table book.
We stand on the shoulders of giants, and my first book was '83, the re-edition of Steve J. Rubin's The
Mm,
James Bond Films, which is still a really great
good.
text. And
Yeah.
that book, I bought in Brent Cross Shopping Centre, which is our local shopping mall. The location in Tomorrow Never Dies, the Hamburg car park there. Little did I know back then that could be a Bond location. But yeah, we remember our first books, and I read that to oblivion, and
Yeah.
I still remember
Mm.
phrases from that book now, and it's great. Steve J. Rubin meeting him was
Yeah.
meeting a Bond author, and I know he's a regular supporter of what you guys do as
Yeah,
well.
it's kind of surreal because mine was the was Raymond Benson's bedside companion, and I checked it out from our library constantly. And then now, I mean, I'm friendly with him. He'll be out
Yeah,
next month. I mean, it's sort of a surreal
Yeah.
thing, but you
Steve
just
Rubin's
yeah,
Encyclopedia
yeah, same with
was
that.
my
Yeah.
first one when I was a teenager, and I remember when we asked him to do Doctor No, it was our first movie, and I was super nervous because it was like, well, this is Steve Rubin, man,
yeah, yeah.
Very
and he
nice.
came back and did the Q&A for Thunderball with Luciana,
Yeah.
and so he's been a great friend.
Yeah, it's good.
And like
It's
Neil's
good
saying,
support.
like, just growing up and admiring all these folks to now be kind of working with them
Yeah.
and talking with them and becoming friendly with them. And like I've been lucky enough in the entertainment industry where I've worked on TV shows and stuff like that, and I don't really get starstruck. Happens every once in a while, especially if I'm surprised by somebody just saying hi to me. But the Bond girls, I will never ever stop being starstruck by. At the Christmas party, somebody pulled me aside and said, "You keep looking over at Luciana. Do you want to go say hi?" And I'm like, "Oh, no. I've already said it's
Well,
okay.
you've talked to her a lot. Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
I just can't.
yeah.
Still
It's
can't
fun.
believe she's hanging out with us. So yeah.
We were lucky enough for Dark and the Sun. There's the oldest bookshop in London called Stanford's, and we had a book launch there, and we were
Oh,
graced
yeah,
by
second.
Martine Bezic
Mm,
and Caroline
Mm.
Munro, Naomi from the Spy Army, Vic Armstrong, and Anthony Way.
nice.
And they gave a wonderful. They were generous with the time. It was a cold, wet, rainy November evening, but it was a great place to launch the book, and they were very generous. So we never get tired of meeting
Yeah,
alumni from the Bond films. They're always generous, both with their contributions in our books and also when we have events like this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
We've
you.
been lucky with some
Yeah.
of the actors that have not just Luciana, but we've been speaking with Graham Bush from License to Kill, and
Oh wow, yeah,
he's a big Bond fan too. So being in a Bond movie is he's still excited about that, which we love. And
yeah,
we've been talking with Lynn Holly Johnson for Your Eyes Only, and we've been getting friendly with Anders from
yeah.
Sweden with Love, who's
And it's
offered
great.
his time and knowledge. So
Who's
it's
George
it's
Lazenby's manager
Mm,
and is a
yeah.
great supporter for what we've done as well. He was in
Mm.
London for a week, and with Spy Octane, and generally he's great.
Well, thank you
He's
guys.
been fantastic and friendly, and
Yeah.
I think he's going to be in town. I don't know if he'll be in town next month for our Majesty screening, but we've been speaking with him about. We know that George won't be able to make it, but we do want to honor him and honor members of his family. So we've invited them out to the screening as well, and it's going to be a big George love fest that night. So we're looking forward to it.
We love George.
Yeah, no, he's great. Well, you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Both
you,
Darker Than
gentlemen.
the Sun and Spy Octane are out there, and they're both fantastic. So thank you guys. We'll let thanks a lot. We appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Neil.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you, guys.
Steve.
Keep up
Thank
the
you,
good work in LA, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you so much,
Yeah,
fellas.
thanks a lot. We
Keeping the
appreciate
LA end up.
it.
Cheers.
We try.
We do our best and
Yeah.
have fun while doing it too.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you
Bye.
guys soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.